I am Taylor, and you are listening to the Surviving Maine podcast. With me, as always, my esteemed, beautiful, bearded co-host. It's George. How are you, George?
Great. Happy to be here again.
Always. And our special guest for this episode, with the gorgeous locks, the metal locks, as I was just saying, with the used to be fiance, now wife on this season, with the guy who cooked all the rice from season 3 and cameraman for season 4 of Surviving Maine. It's William. How are you, William?
Hey, I'm doing so good. So excited to be on. And also so excited to have more Surviving Maine content
Yes.
because no one edits like you, Taylor. And I
Oh,
say that as an editor
you do.
myself. I've been so jazzed. And it's just, it's so satisfying to see, especially being there for both season 3 and season 4,
Mhm.
to see the storylines so well. I don't even want to say encapsulated because that doesn't go far enough. Portrayed and explained
Mm.
because sometimes it's hard enough to understand the nuanced relationships that are going on in Survivor.
Yeah.
To do it in an LRG is infinitely harder because you don't have that 24/7 coverage.
Right.
So I'm always so impressed about how you're not able to only make a really enjoyable edit, but make one that's extremely consumable and fun to watch consistently. So
And that's why I love you, William. I know that means so much.
it's the only reason why I'm here is to pump you up. I'm out. See ya.
It really means a lot coming from you because I know you've edited survival challenge seasons, so you
Yeah,
know what goes into it, and it really means a lot. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
of course.
So let's get into episode 5, spooling me to victory. Any general thoughts about the episode or what was going on that didn't make the edit?
Well, the first thing I want to talk about, honestly, is just this challenge because first off, as it goes, as we're talking about editing, actually, is a great transition. Um, so many challenges obviously get shortened for consumption. Very rarely, I think in my time of editing challenges, I think 90 to 95% end up shorter, and 50% of the challenges end up being like a fraction of the actual length that they were, especially when you get into weeds of like endurance challenges.
Yes.
This one was not an endurance challenge, but boy, did it go the length of an endurance challenge, and you will not see that through the edit. It seemed like everyone was going pretty quick,
Mm-hmm.
but you had on the Green Tribe, things were going honestly really, really slow and steady. Like Amelia didn't drop a bunch, but the
Right.
team as a whole were taking it really, really slow. And we're talking like, I feel like 10 to 20 minutes per checkpoint to
Per
get
checkpoint.
to.
And I think that's part of why she was so exhausted, because that takes a lot of freaking quads and glutes and hamstrings. She was up there for so long, just like
Right.
slowly moving. Yeah.
Which is interesting in contrast to the other tribe where Allison was on and off much more rapidly. But when they did finally get a checkpoint, it was done in quicker succession. So actually, it's kind of hard to tell how close they were battling, but especially the way there, it was really tight
It was.
all the way to the first stretch there. Just because of those contrasting strategies, the slow and steady or just the quick and brash. And you saw Allison trying multiple different strategies, trying to go backwards, trying all these things. Um, what's also very interesting to note, and I'm really wondering if it gave them a leg up, but one of Dave's many past games that he played was Survival Challenge
Yeah.
in season 5 in 2017. And we had multiple challenges that used very similar spools,
Oh.
so similar that I'm almost certain that Liza got her idea for these challenges from these challenges because she
Mm.
played with Dave
Yes.
to in these same very challenges. The difference is that those spools, they had lopsided wheels. They literally looked like eggs instead of
Oh.
perfect circles. So they were even
Oh my
more
God.
challenging. And if I remember correctly, Dave was one of the people moving the wheels on that. So he's had that practice to really make sure that those things are not only steady, but like as someone who is like dream teamed with those types of spools, and I think I played, yeah, there was a challenge that I did in my season survival challenge that uses similar spools. It's really hard to translate what it feels like without doing it yourself, because you are not only like, these wheels don't move themselves. You
Mm-hmm.
are moving the wheels. They are heavy,
Mm-hmm.
and you got a person on top of it. So you got these heavy wheels with an added full human on top of it. But you're also holding against, because especially with how the ground is, if you hit any sort of not just slope, like little like bump or
Yeah.
anything, you'll feel the wheels want to lurch forward.
Mm-hmm.
So your hands have to be so tight and ready for not only moving forward, but at any moment holding back. And that takes a lot of arm strength and concentration. And then also the communication that it takes from the people on the spool to the people um, around them. And
Not to
I think,
mention that was the hottest part of the day
Mm.
when
yeah,
we were doing
oh,
that. It was gross out. There was a huge learning curve to that challenge, and exhaustion was setting in with these people. They were hungry, and it was painful to be on the sidelines watching that happen. And to add to what you were saying about the editing, the sort of camera work, the special effects to show the dizziness and the unsteadiness, the precarious, nature of what was going on is he frozen again?
Like going in and out.
Oh, there he goes. Was you know, that was I lost what I was saying. But yeah, that was great. That was great, Taylor, to just
Thank
the
you.
the way you made it like you felt like you were there. It felt like you were freaking out and getting overheated and getting dehydrated, just like Amelia.
Did what I could with the tools I had.
yeah,
And
I thought that was really cool.
thank you. And like trying to be like, what would be going on in a person's head if they're about to pass out? Some
But on the
glorious.
flip side, I think that Allison, and Amelia did a great job, and we'll talk about the aftermath of that. Allison also picked up on that real quick and kind of killed it, and it was also very, it was it's a complete flip side because she was having the time of her life, laughing and giggling.
Right.
And the part of it that I fell out from that you added in, which I thought was Chef's kiss, Taylor, was when Liza said, "Think of the thigh muscles."
Yeah.
I almost fainted.
I had to. I was like, that's great. That needs to go in here.
It was so whimsical the way Liza said that. I
So
thought
off
it
the
was
cuff.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh it's something that has happened, and I think every maybe not every challenge, but at least 75% of the challenges, I'm missing a camera from someone. And it's always a different person. And for this one, it was Brandon. Brandon's following the Amelia spool. And I only have one of his clips instead of two. So like I had to use these far away shots that Jess had taken instead of the following. So you can't tell like how close Amelia and Allison were for that first half of the challenge. And there's a part where like there's only one post. Allison got there first, and then they have to just wait. And Amelia's standing there the whole time with like TJ and Seth holding that spool, and they just have to wait for Allison to get to the key before they can go. And they're right there, and Amelia ends up falling because she's had to wait for too long. Uh, I was sad that I didn't have the a better footage of that, but every challenge there's so, like Dan's camera's missing and
Right.
Brandon, Addison, whatever. Yeah.
I don't know if this, I know it's not in the episode, but Amelia mentioned that one of her biggest problems was the communication with the people doing the wheel.
Oh.
And that's huge, because if the people in the wheel, like, they matter a whole lot, but they don't matter as much as the person on the wheel,
Mm-hmm.
because the people, there's more allowance with the people moving the wheel. If the person on top falls off, it doesn't matter what the other people are doing. That's it. So like you have to prioritize what the person on the wheel is saying, because if that person falls off, it doesn't matter what you're trying to do, whether it be
Right.
move faster or slower, like it does not matter. That
Yeah.
person has to stay on the wheel. And so I know that she expressed that she felt like there was a huge lapse in communication, whether they were either not listening to her at the desired level,
Mm.
or they just didn't feel like there was that big of a connection. And this is why I mentioned the whole thing with Dave and his experience, is that
Uh,
just knowing how important communication is on a challenge like that can literally make the difference. And I know this seems kind of like a no-duh situation, but if you've never played an LRG, you have to know that so many obvious things to do in a challenge doesn't hit you until after you play the challenge.
yeah.
And sometimes when you're watching it, you get a similar effect where, oh, why don't they do this? Why didn't you think of this? Well, when you're in the heat of the moment, so many of those things just go right over your head. And so there's
Like
just so much
the tube
pressure.
socks that I decided to wear. Exactly the same thing.
So,
Continue.
like, a great example is in the very first episode, we watched someone like drop a key. Like, you think, like, oh, how could you even do that? Like, I would have kept it really secure. I would have, like,
Mm.
zipped in a. It's like those things just seem so obvious when you're not in the heat of the moment. And when you're in these challenges, there is, especially immunity challenges, and we're talking immunity challenge post swap. There's a
Yeah.
lot of just pressure going
Yeah.
on. And when pressure happens, you make mistakes. And
Hmm.
so something as simple as that can happen and really impact someone's performance. Um, Also, something to consider. Um, on top of it being a really hot day, and then just doing that challenge for so long, she also has endo, which basically just
What's that?
means that she has really strong periods. And during this whole game, it was that time for her. So she was really
No.
struggling with just her typical blood sugar levels, just like staying hydrated is extra difficult for her. And she also never mentioned this to any of the players in game. She did not want this to be a factor. She didn't want to be treated specially for that. She was truly a badass for never bringing it up as a. I thought,
Oh,
you
no, you
know,
don't even know. You don't even know. Yeah.
I
yeah,
feel like you're bringing
the
it up
fact.
now.
No, it's
I
it's crazy that like when we see posts and she's talking about all the things, she's immediately like, I feel like there are so many excuses that she could have made and she just didn't. She just went to like, hey, look, I'd love to stay in the game, but I understand if you want me to vote out. I'm not a quitter though. I will not quit. So if you want me out of this game, you're gonna have to vote me out. I just think that's crazy to not lean on any of those super valid excuses to get people on your side. And I think in a weird way that kind of worked in her favor. I think it was fascinating seeing all that go together. You also had her replacement, Madison, immediately defending her, like, we
yeah,
can't vote her out. She completely crushed that. And I know because I failed at
yeah.
V swapping out with her.
Hmm.
So
Let me ask you,
yeah, some
in CBS Survivor World, Amelia not being voted out in this episode, considering her position in the tribe as like a not in the numbers, and considering the fact that all of that drama went down and at the challenge, uh, don't you feel like how do you feel like the public would react to that if this was on a season of CBS Survivor? Whose side would they be on? Consider also the fact that we gave them the option to put in a replacement, which wasn't part of the rules in the beginning.
right.
I think Jeff would have done that
Man,
too.
I
I
threw a
think
lot at
that
it.
part I think that part would still exist, the replacement part,
Yeah.
right? Um, I think as far as how the tribe reacts, I think it's literally depending on what tribe you're on. And I mean, I even wonder if, we see this and we'll get into it in a minute, but the whole tribe swap situation, who's to say, at first it seems like she got swapped into a really bad position, but for all we know, that's exactly who she needed to be with to have that level of respect of people who would want to keep her in the game.
Now
That's a
take
great
me
point.
through. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now take me through your reaction to when she made it past that goal.
So yeah, this is
You
definitely
cry.
and I knew this was going to be brought up as soon as I was told this was the episode I would be on for. Was there was a huge dramatic moment that was cut out from this, which is once we Liza said, "Stop the challenge, everybody stop." Immediately this is that production moment. And usually when on CBS Survivor, we see this being a whole dramatic size thing. Bring in medical. Oh! And it's literally the most drawn out thing, and it's super. It doesn't matter if it's something super serious and someone ultimately gets pulled from it, or someone literally just like hurt themselves enough to stop the challenge. It's just like
We
it
brought in
doesn't
Seth.
matter. Yeah, we did, but it wasn't dramaticized in this, and I kind of I like that for the edit. But what ended up happening was I think George, you called me over as well to make sure everything was good because Amelia got like really emotional, and it was just a lot at once. She
Mhm.
knew the pressure was on her to perform as being the sole person out of this tribe swap situation. She put herself in a hero role, which is not the situation she normally would, but to make a statement that she should be in. And in that moment, she really felt like she messed up her shot. She failed her tribe, and she's not really just she's going through a lot because she is battling what the implications of this is for her game, for her tribe, and also just for herself, trying to struggle to meet her own standards because she in that moment feels like she's failed herself. She wants to say that, I kicked ass out there. And in that moment, she feels like she failed, even though no one would tell her that because it's very clear that she gave 100%. And for most people, that's considered success, giving it your all. It doesn't mean that you win every time. It just means that you gave everything you had out there. And she literally um technically gave 99% because that last 1% was stopping her from falling off that damn wheel and passing out. Actually, she knew when to stop and be like, look, I'm literally about to pass out. And as someone who sometimes has like low blood sugar stuff, when you've actually passed out before, you know exactly what the moments before
Mm.
feels like and when to take action. And so it's no joke. If you actually feel like you're gonna pass out, especially considering the position physically where she's in, where she's standing on a wheel, and if she were to pass out, she'd be going face first, and she could actually get injured in a way where she would be medevaced from the game, But really cool moment with Seth, especially when Seth was directing on how to take care of it. And I thought that was also like a really cool moment between the two of them as well. And just I feel like there was some it was weird. It's kind of like we saw like a different side of Seth for a quick moment of just seeing his kind nature.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that
I
really
agree.
works because we saw in episode one how Amelia responded to Dee Dee, and we're kind of seeing just another opportunity of kindness there, and just kind of something that's above game level. And I think that that's kind of like a cool moment.
In an earlier podcast, we had Addison on here, and Addison was talking about how he saw you and Amelia and knew the two of you and approached the two of you sort of pre-game, and you were both sort of like, let's just keep it on the low because we don't want to confuse
Yeah.
anything. My question to you is, in this moment of uh, need for Amelia, you went from being a cameraman to being someone who was able to help her through a very difficult situation. So she ran the risk of seeing that tender moment between you and her, and that could have affected her game even more so than anything else.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'll leave the impact off because I don't know what the future episodes hold to see what does and doesn't make the edit. But you'll have to stay tuned to see if that plays a part in it. But otherwise, um, she really needed to feel like she needed to have some sanity back. Like I said, she was multiple things coming at her, and she was becoming incredibly overwhelmed while also being physically very weak. And I came in there and immediately knew that like what she needed in that moment is to know that no matter what happens, even if she decides that she can't go on in the game, she needs to know she's not a failure because that's not at all what happened. Like I said, she pushed herself to the limit, and this is what Survivor is about sometimes. It's literally about finding your limit, experiencing that, and then afterwards you work on expanding on that. And I think that so many people's, especially with LRGs, where it's so much more attainable for people, one of the biggest takeaways that I hear from people is that I did things that I didn't know I could do. And I see them go out into the world afterwards and do more. And I feel like she really needed to know in that moment that she had already done some insanely impressive things, and thinking that she was a failure, regardless of how she wanted to think was a failure, was simply not true.
So, Wim, are you
And
saying that
yeah,
when you spoke with Amelia then, like one on one after this happened, when she was sitting on the side, or after the challenge?
yeah, no, we there was literally a moment where after Liza said stop, and then I think I imagine George assessed the situation, seeing Amelia getting really emotional. I don't know if you asked. I think did you ask Amelia if she wanted to see me or something like that, and then you called me over? Is that how it went down?
I think I was in a mode of I really don't want Amelia to quit. That was what I
Mm,
felt. And I sort of was like, if she just had a chance to be near you for a second, I felt like it could have just given her that family visit that was like, okay, I could do this. I'll jump back
right.
in. I just didn't want the game to
Yeah, I don't. I That's a good question. I
I
don't
wanted her
know
to be
how much of an
fine.
impact. Yeah, I don't know how much of a not. It definitely made an impact. I don't know how much of a difference maker that made if literally that didn't happen, would she have then quit the game? I don't know. Did it help her get back on her feet faster? Absolutely. And I feel
Yeah.
like she got her sanity back quickly, much faster because of that. And I mean, you literally see Liza talking to her about her decision in the edit, and between that and when Liza stops the challenge, I want to say it was about 15 minutes, something like that.
Mm.
And I know you literally don't see how emotional Amelia got um from the episode, but she was in a really she was probably the most emotional she was the entire game, was literally in that moment. And so to go from that to getting that composure back so quickly is also, I think, really impressive. And just, I mean, you can see her talking to her tribe is like, I am not going to quit, and I see a lot of people have moments like these and it shakes them to their core. And even though they grow from it, in that moment, they're not able to proceed. It's something that they kind of have to really sit with, and they really just kind of need to kind of like, what I mean, look at Dee Dee. She had a crazy moment of like, wow, I'm doing things I never thought I could do socially and putting myself out there, but then quickly found her limit. And then rather than having a moment, and there was also a lot of emotional content cut or not cut necessarily,
Not
never even
recorded.
filmed,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah,
Yeah.
from Dee Dee in those situations. George talked to her for an extensive amount of time, and I feel like a lot of um, judgment from the production first hearing that she wanted to quit was immediately dismissed when we heard why, and especially when George got the moment to really break down that process of her mindset and what she's gone through to get to this day. And for her, getting to that moment, she needed to then take that moment outside of the game immediately. It wasn't something that she could then continue on the game, go back into that gameplay mindset. It wasn't a situation that called for that. For
Mm.
Amelia, she was able to have that moment, process it, and then be like, okay, game mode. And that's
Yeah, she
something
was
that's,
ready to jump back in. I knew she was at a
yeah,
certain point. I think you were called over more as a let's get this going.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
that's what I mean.
let's
It's like it
let's
definitely
move this
accelerated.
along. We have a lot to cover today. She's
But I
okay.
just,
She's hydrated. Let's get it going.
yeah. And it's also crazy to see because trying to visualize how that would change. I won't go into what happens beyond this episode, but I think it's insane that you immediately see confessionals, the talking afterwards. Amelia was never even a candidate
No,
for that tribal council, which is crazy
That's
when
what
you
I
had
wanted
up
to bring
to,
up
I would say,
next.
yeah, because we had up to
I
four people being talked about, and Amelia was not one of them.
That's
That's
what I'm saying.
crazy.
Was that question asked even? Was that even part of the footage to
no,
like say, "Hey, Amelia, you suffered this thing. Are you worried that it's going to be you tonight?" I can't imagine that wasn't asked.
no,
It's
not on
shocking to
camera.
me.
There apparently TJ and Adam had a conversation at the water, but it was not recorded. Or I didn't get the footage. You never know. um,
Never know.
uh,
But I mean, at tribal council, like an
oh
actual
no,
question to Amelia.
no.
How did how did that not
Which
happen?
is also
I think
crazy
that
because,
everyone knew at that point that she was not in any danger. I mean, Sandra liked her and wanted to
yeah,
work with her. Sandra's the mob
yeah.
boss, and Sandra's gonna say like, "This is who I want to keep in the game. This is who we're keeping in the game." Never up for discussion, really.
Sandra's moment I wrote down for her at tribal council was fantastic when she turned it on TJ.
She was
Uh,
so funny.
he, it was fantastic. Oh wait, where is
She's
it?
rolling
I
her
gotta
eyes
find
at
it.
him.
No, she damn it. Uh carry on.
Carry on.
Oh, I think it's her again. Okay. Yeah. So a couple of little notes I have here.
Hmm.
Sandra flipping it back on TJ was brilliant. No, just she flipped it back on him. I forgot what the. Do you remember what it was, Will or Taylor?
Yeah, he said, if you want to make this a boring season and just vote
That's
me
Oh
it.
out.
yeah. Oh
She flipped it right back.
man.
No,
Yeah,
and it was more like you. So you're telling me that you would flip on people that you were with
just
to
to make
not
good
make
TV.
it a boring season?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
That's some mob boss shit right
yeah.
there, right at tribal council. That's some mob boss
I
shit.
think this was a really fun episode for Sandra because it really kind of, I think, her getting an idol and then her just doing well socially at this point, I feel like is where, and she's feeling good about the swap. I feel like she's following that traditional path line of someone recognizing that they're actually on the top and not being afraid to show it.
Hmm.
Is
And
she too comfortable
someone
though?
like,
Is she too
I
comfortable though?
mean,
And I say that because
well,
they
so
were
this
overtly
is
strategizing. Her and Adam were overtly strategizing in front of everybody. And there was even a comment, look at them strategizing the hell out of each other
right.
right there. Stuff
I
like
think
that, it's cocky.
It's too
right
cocky.
from this episode, it's yeah, I feel like she's she's on that line where I can't actually tell if she's gone past the point of return where she's now clouded and completely jaded from her position, or she's being self-aware enough to know that she's got a good position and she has to be very careful about that, but still kind of wanting to, show off a little bit. With someone like Sandra, who's very expressive and very talkative, it can be kind of actually harder to know what the inside mentality of that person's like mindset is. And I can say this for someone like me. When the camera's on, I turn it on for the TV. I will always make whatever I'm doing more impressive than I believe it is. And I feel like Sandra has some of that in her too. So I'm not completely buying that she is as cocky as she comes off internally, if that makes sense. But I feel like this episode's really interesting because I feel like we're seeing that point where I'm not able to even parse which way she's going at the moment. It could go from this episode forward, it could go either way.
Hmm.
And
Basically,
that's
Did you
always a
say
very dangerous spot
say
to be in.
did you say parse? You said parse, didn't you?
Yeah, I couldn't parse which way or not.
I'm just making sure that there was a parse in there.
Okay.
There was a good use of parse. I haven't heard Parth in a long time. Sorry, continue.
But I always love seeing players who are, I don't want to just say players who are playing, but people who aren't afraid to use their power. I think that as impressive it is to see someone who is in the top of the game be also so self-aware that they're not showing it. And so you're just watching them. I think this is a great example for someone like Matt, where he really knew he was in a fantastic spot in the game, but would you know outside? No. He had it on lockdown on both sides. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like it when we see someone who knows they're on the top and they can't help but show a little bit of that.
But
It kind
it's
of
I
just,
see it as pretty sloppy though. Like to just
I do
be
too.
openly
of
talking
course,
to
it's a little
Adam.
sloppy. That's what makes it
It's
fun.
yeah, it's definitely I love to see it. I'm I wouldn't play that way.
To watch
I
him to
also,
play against and be like, I think we need to target them. They're the ones doing the most
right,
overt
right.
strategizing,
Well,
and the ones that think that they're totally on top. I'm thinking, what's his name from Marquesa, who was on top of the world, and it was like one of the first. I forget his name. On top of the world, and he was the first person that was knocked off his throne. Do you remember?
The
Gay,
nurse,
good looking.
yeah, he wanted someone to pee on him when he got stung
oh
by
my
the
God,
stingray.
yeah.
What's his name?
Oh my God, yeah. I can't remember. I
Yeah,
want to
so
say
him,
it's, yeah.
Kevin.
Um,
His name is, for argument's sake, his name is Kevin.
Okay.
okay. It did seem like a basic white guy's name, if I remember correctly.
Oh,
Chad.
John
No,
Carroll.
there it is,
Oh,
John
Bam.
Carroll.
am
I
I
Yep.
have
wrong? Am I wrong?
I
John. Yeah. You said basic like
have,
I was like it's John.
Yeah.
I
That's
have a
it.
couple of little,
Eureka.
I have a couple of little observations.
Okay.
Um,
Yes, go
Maddie,
for it.
Maddie, who I love, and more so in these edited
Yeah.
episodes than in person because I didn't really
Mhm.
get a lot of a chance to talk to her. So I didn't
Right.
know her other than just watching from afar. Uh, she reminds me of like a Bob's Burger character. I don't know if you guys watch Bob's
I
Burgers,
love Bugs
but
Bunny.
she's a total not a specific Bob's Burgers character, but one that's made in her likeness. I just
Yeah.
see it.
I would love to
That's
see
just
that.
my that's one little observation. So many sweethearts. How many sweethearts are in this game? You know, she's a sweetheart. At least three people say that describe someone else as a sweetheart. Just an observation. Could be a drinking game. Um, the classic this sent me in this episode. The classical you have some classical music underscoring that it when they make their way to the water source and they're chatting with each other, and
Oh yeah.
it tickled me because it's like the least classy of scenarios in the world because the water well is here and the porta potty is like 8 feet away from the water source. So it's like the least classical music underscored necessity, but I love the juxtaposition. It cracked me up just from being there.
Nice.
That's all I got.
Um,
TJ's Tribal Council plea. Pretty good. I had a
I
little note.
I want to talk more.
Oh,
I have a lot to talk about tribal council wise because this is honestly a really fascinating tribal council. But before we do that, I kind of want to back up to the tribe swap,
Hmm.
yeah,
um,
that happened.
because yeah, we talked a little bit about the obvious of like Amelia just pulls out a green buff, is just stuck there in her original spot, and then everyone else pulls out a different color, and they all go away. I'm trying to remember the dynamics of the other tribe. What were some of the more notable like mix-ups on that other tribe?
You have the three moose heads. You have Dave and Allison, who are one of Dave is one of Allison's many final twos. And then you have then you have oh shoot Zach and Lauren, who that's really fun because Zach knows that Lauren threw his name out day one, and Lauren doesn't know that Zach knows that. Can we
Mm,
wait before we get to anything else? Can we talk about Zach just getting that idol off the table? I wish I had better footage of it that I could have put
oh
in.
my God.
Yeah,
And
don't
I
remember at
just
all.
Ah,
I could this is this is the same moment where Madison comes out, right? And then
Yes.
tries to take.
She's like
Okay,
yanking it.
I cannot get over this moment. I know I so here's I'm gonna be a little bit mean for a second because I was just
Okay.
talking about in the heat of the moment you make mistakes, right?
Yes, yes.
I despite knowing that, I cannot understand the mindset of going up to something that is right in front of everyone that you're gonna have to take. You already know, you've accepted that, okay, if I do this, everyone's gonna see it. And I accepted the fact that this is gonna be a public advantage. You take it, you fail to take it, but you only fail because you just kind of tugged on it, and then you're like, oh well, you didn't try anything. At this point, you're already up there. Like, what's
But
the
William,
point of
that's the thing though. No one saw her do it except her own tribe because they had all talked about seeing it. No one else saw it. No one
which is
else
the
saw it.
second part of this where I'm also baffled by. It's like, what do you mean nobody saw it? I'm like, because when I watched this, the I asked Amelia because when I she hasn't seen the episode obviously, but I just asked her because I thought it was such a like crazy moment that I feel like got completely understated, and I remember watching it live just absolutely gobsmacked about what I just watched because it's very rare to see someone do that and not fully commit to
Yeah.
it. Um and like and she's like, yeah, like no one really noticed that. I'm like, what do you mean nobody really noticed that? And so that just like it was the only thing I could notice in
Yeah.
that moment. And I didn't even know, like I knew the advantage was, I don't know. I maybe it's just a little bit of producer bias because I know the thing is there.
Of course. Yeah.
And but
I mean,
man,
you see, like Lauren's reaction. She's just cracking the fuck up. Like, why did you do that? Why? She thinks like the same as you that everyone must have seen that, and now it's just
right.
there.
So that's the worst of both worlds is the fact that you went out of your way to publicly do something and then you don't even get the thing that you sought out to do. That I don't know if I've ever seen that anywhere else, period. And I just thought
We
it was
got
a
to get
really
Zach
funny
on here and
moment.
ask him about that. We got to get him on here and ask him about it.
About Zach.
Zach.
Yeah, I mean, uh, yeah, and no, because nobody saw Zach except Lauren, and I think actually maybe some of his other tribe mates did, original tribe mates did as well. Um,
This goes right with Sandra's really sneaky idol snag as well. I
yeah,
think people who are actually getting the advantages are being pretty sneaky about it,
yeah,
unless if you're Dee, who openly tells everyone verbatim how it happened, which I still can't get over. That's so funny.
Dee Dee was like a tornado. It was
mm,
just fantastic. It was just
freaking
You know,
wonderful.
DD.
it's kind of perfect. Before the filming of this season, we had just witnessed Carolyn and
Mm,
Survivor, which a lot of people immediately compared to DD to. But I
mhm.
think we have to recognize now that we've had more seasons of Survivor comes out that has come out, DD is also Surviving Maine's Jelinski because we will talk about her every
Yes,
single episode until this
yes,
season is over.
her
DD is a
legend
legend of
lives on.
Surviving Maine that will never die.
He made an impact for sure.
Huge.
So then we had that journey.
Yes.
The journey was who what? TJ, Allison, and Lauren.
No, it's just two, because it was just down to
TJ
two
and
tribes.
Allison.
Yeah, the log maze.
Oh, I see. I no, okay, Allison and TJ, yes, because they were kind of working. They were working with each other. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, on the bench. I don't
Okay.
know why I had that in my head as the other one, but yeah. What do you think about that, Will? That outcome,
Sorry, the outcome
the
of what again?
journey, the journey. You watched the journey with TJ and
Yeah,
Allison.
I'm immediately thinking to like sympathizing with TJ's position of like you had to be here to get this. Like that is the only reason why you're here is to get something out of this. And putting yourself in this vulnerable position where you're not able to socialize with people in a really like crucial point and then not get the thing that you went out of your way to get
Yeah.
is like soul crushing. And so I'm hoping, and I feel like maybe he did. I'm trying to figure out when he conjured up the idea to do what he did in the voting booth. because my thought is immediately, as if I'm TJ and I immediately fail that, I'm immediately thinking of the most cracked, like, strategies at this point to get myself out of this, because I'm thinking in that moment it's gonna take a Hail Mary. It's gonna take something crazy for me to get out of this situation, because this was the long shot. We're past the
Like
long shot thing now. Now we're
like
into Hail
screaming
Mary
at tribal
territory.
council. I
Yeah,
was screaming up in the perch.
Yeah, which
that's correct.
also I don't I don't know how it was louder in person than it was in the edit,
It
despite
sounds
It
the
so
was
edit being.
quiet.
no, it was jarring. He did that
Really?
shit 2 feet from me, and I like threw my papers up in the air. I had no idea what the hell was going on.
It
And
sounded so quiet.
outside, when outside everyone's being dead silent, keep in mind this is real life. There's no background music or
Yeah,
anything going on. It's just everyone's shutting up, super quiet, and then out of nowhere you just hear, yeah! And it's like literally everyone's like jumped a little bit. I'm pretty sure
Like,
myself
there's no
included.
way anybody's gonna buy this. This is such bad acting.
yeah.
This is like
So
watching showgirls acting.
I'm
Uh,
curious to know from your perspective, Taylor, because it's something that I've wondered for a while now. Did this actually shake any votes up?
No, it
yeah,
didn't.
Shaylee's. Didn't it shake Shaylee's vote up? She was
It
the one
made
that was. Oh,
it made
she made
her.
her play.
I believe she that made her. I don't know. I think she might have played her shot in the dark anyway.
That's what she did.
I think she may
No,
have
but
Right.
because she
I
just
think
got
no, no, no. I
TJ's.
think George, you're right. I think him doing that is what solidified Shaylee playing her shot in the dark.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
but did that affect the outcome? I don't even remember.
No, absolutely not.
No,
If she had
no.
hit it, if she
If
had
she,
hit
yeah,
it,
right.
Yeah.
who did T? Would Sandra would have gone? He voted for No, he didn't have a vote. Oh, that would have
Yeah.
been so.
Didn't
Oh
have a vote.
no, it would have been Amelia. They would have voted out Amelia if she hit that shot in the dark. Oh my goodness.
I never. Did
Yeah.
you think of that until right now, Will?
That it's crazy to think how little things like that can, because I know it didn't seem like it ultimately made that big of an impact, but it's so easy for
Wait,
a small
math.
decision like that to
I'm
have
sorry. I'm
crazy
sorry.
butterfly effects. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Amelia voted for TJ. I'm sorry. It would have been TJ. Don't worry. It wouldn't have been
Oh,
Amelia. Right?
Oh
I
Amelia
mean,
voted
shit!
for TJ. My bad.
right, because I'm
Hey,
trying to
wait.
think.
We need to talk about this.
Go ahead.
Because I very purposely did not include this in the episode,
Okay.
but people are gonna be confused by the ending of this, that Shaylee gets voted out. They're gonna probably think it's TJ did that by
Yeah.
his yelling, his cracked tribal council performance. However, the plan that the 4 original Sebagos came up with when they abandoned Amelia and Shaylee while TJ was on his journey, the 4 of them got together. They said they basically Sandra and Adam wanted to convince Madison that they wanted to keep TJ and get rid of Shaylee, because they saw Shaylee and Madison talking a lot. They're similar age. They didn't like that. So they were like, let's just vote out Shaylee. And Madison kind of had to go along with it. And it was Madison's idea to say, let's tell them we're voting TJ just in case he gets an idol. So they will vote for TJ. We will all vote for Shaylee. So no matter what happens, one of them's going home, right? So the plan was to vote for Shaylee. Amelia, very wisely, then has one-on-ones with every single person. Shaylee doesn't do that. Amelia does it. And one of the first people she talks to is Seth. And he says, I don't know. And I wish I could talk to the man to find out why he did this, if it was like an accident because he doesn't understand the game, or if he did it on purpose to bring Amelia closer. I don't think it was on purpose. But he tells her, and I have the footage, that the plan is to vote out Shaylee, but we're telling everyone TJ.
I don't know within your tribe, like, what's going on. Mm-hmm. So I want to just hear from each of you, just kind of, who are you planning on?
I believe the plan is to tell everybody TJ and go with Shayla.
Okay.
That's what I'm being told.
Okay. Perfect. I'll take that. Thank you.
So she has that knowledge. She, going forward, tells people that Madison is the one who said that. I don't have the footage of her talking with Madison, so I don't know if Madison also did, but Amelia is very convinced that Madison told her that, and she never talks about Seth telling her that, which I thought was weird. Maybe she mixed things up, or both of them. Both of them told her, or she mixed it up. I'm not sure, but it comes out in later episodes.
The only tidbit I have about that whole situation is that yes, she knew about the plan and she still intentionally voted for TJ
to keep their trust.
Yeah, definitely for strategic reasons. So which I think is always a smart thing to do, and I feel like a lot of Survivor contestants don't understand this, is that like it's not always bad to be on the wrong side of the boat, because it goes back to the old it goes back to the old Survivor adage of Survivor is first and foremost how you perceive people, but if you want to win Survivor, it's about controlling how people perceive you. And so having that constant consciousness of thinking about not just about like what your move, because your first thought is going to be, oh, I want to vote with the people. I don't want to be left out of the vote, right? But if you're someone who is really thinking long term and thinking beyond that vote, you got to be thinking, okay, but what does me voting this way without supposed to be knowing this was the way to vote in the first place going to do to me? And I almost wonder, I actually don't know the answer to this. I'll have to ask after. I wonder if her even saying Madison was also a strategic play rather than saying Seth, because you said it was really consistent. So it's possible. I'm not gonna. Here's the thing. I'm not gonna put it past her. She could, for whatever reason, have a reason for not saying Seth was the person that told her. You know.
What else,
Honestly,
you guys?
that's I let's it was from a personal standpoint. I didn't know Will and Amelia before this game. And Will had to quickly assimilate to all that is me very quickly. And he's like, who the hell is this guy? And I think it might have been the Dee Dee moment that you brought up, where I spoke with her and you sort of were that extra pair of ears on the wall to make sure that nothing would get misconstrued. You were like, okay, this guy kind of knows what he's talking about. But,
We were two LRG producer veterans coming together, understanding each other for the first time, with no prep time, you know.
Right. So the reason why it was so special and why I love Will and I love Amelia is that we had some moments. I watched Will watch his fiance in a very, very vulnerable game, and he was helpless because he couldn't do anything to help her. Not a thing. He was on the side, and it was probably, I could only imagine, a nightmare for you to watch her when she would fall off the spool, and that's where I'll stop because that's where we are in the season. But, as far as being a loved one on production, watching it unfold, talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, despite being on production, I take production responsibilities, as do many of us, very seriously. And I was actually the first one to say, I don't want to actually be in charge of filming any confessionals while Amelia is in the game, because I don't want to, even though I know I wouldn't expose any information that I wasn't supposed to share, even just giving looks to Amelia or something like that. I know how people who are in the game will look for anything to change their viewpoint on something, especially in situations like a voting booth, right? I would never be in the voting booth when Amelia would be in the game, because how could I not have even a facial reaction, even if I wasn't giving one, that she could then look into about how she was supposed to vote. So I immediately, coming into this, told Liza, it's like, look, I don't want to be involved in any situation that could even be misconstrued as something giving her an unfair advantage. Because even I don't even think it's a matter of if you trust yourself enough to not expose any information. It's also just the influence of being there and someone thinking that they could get something out of you, even if you're not. So I just wanted to make sure everything was super squeaky clean and be out of all the situations. But what made that very interesting is that every tribal council that I filmed, I had, out of all the producers, the least amount of info on what was going into each of these tribal councils.
Must have been really fun to watch.
Yeah,
was
and so
by
for this
design.
one, I'm thinking, yeah, in this tribal council, I'm thinking she's got to be in a lot of danger. And so, literally, when I watched this episode for the first time, I was floored. Like the fact that she was never, I literally was like, wow, like I because anytime like up till this point, I haven't seen any of these confessionals, so like I'm watching it for the first time, and it's really cool to see everything that's going on. I really um love, especially how some of these people come off in confessionals. I didn't get to see some of them up to this point doing their confessionals. So it's really cool to see them kind of have these moments with the camera. But then also, yeah, in the challenges, I feel like oh my God, like that first tribal council, I'm like mentally just thinking, oh, please play your idol, please play your idol. Like you gotta play the idol. And then in the challenges, I feel like I'm just like mentally trying to like think through the challenge with her, like stay composed, you can do it, like think about this, like don't forget this. And um in other situations, it's funny because me and Amelia really love watching Survivor together as like an activity. And so there's so many situations where we would criticize people on Survivor that she found herself in. And so literally sometimes I'd be thinking, remember what we talk about on Wednesdays. Like, remember what we have to say about this kind of thing. You know what to do. And so it's the amount of non-verbal communication, and I don't mean that like I was giving communication period, but like if I could like telepathically communicate with her, that I was doing throughout the game, was crazy, because I always like was like thinking about her in her shoes, and like what other, like at any point I was always thinking about what I would tell her in that moment, like basically like at any point in the game I would always have something to tell her.
William, I had the exact same experience as you. I was on production when my wife played season 2. George hasn't watched it yet. I don't know why I'm even speaking to George at this point.
I'll get there.
My wife, my wife's playing. I had never seen or heard of an LRG before this.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got thrown on to helping with production on it might have been day 2, maybe later in day 1. And yeah, it was day 1. But anyway, I didn't know, like what, but I knew that I didn't want to give anything away. I knew that I wanted the integrity of the game to be strong. And it was day 2. I did a confessional with Becky, with my wife, and she starts crying, and she tells me turn off the camera because she needs to just talk and cry about how much she hates her tribe. And it was before the swap. And I did it. And if it were now, not only would I not do any confessionals with her, but I would have kept recording because that's good TV.
Yeah.
Like, what the
That's the
fuck?
stuff.
So at that point, it was like the morning of day 2, and I was like, I'm not looking at you for the rest of the game. I'm so sorry. You're gonna have to play this. And so from that moment on, I did not make any eye contact with her at all, because I didn't want any advantage. I didn't want anyone to think there was any chance of an advantage of, like, Becky knows her. Like,
Yeah.
And then,
Well,
and then
also
I also had one more thing. I also had a thing where
go ahead.
Becky has this challenge. She is the robbed goddess of season 2. And there's this challenge that was very unfair. And there was a rules change in the middle of the challenge. And it's why she lost. And then I see her just weeping because she knows she's about to get voted out. And that was her challenge to lose. And it was so unfair. And was so upset. I was like, I need to hug her, but I can't. And like this, fuck this. And then she gets voted out, and I stopped helping. I was just like, I'm done. I was like, you can't even use my camera. I was so done because like I cared so much. I
Yeah.
wasn't an
You were
LRG
invested. You
person.
were invested. Yeah.
I was so, and I don't know anything about LRGs. That was, anyway, it would be different now, but I don't regret the decisions I made. you
It
know?
was, yeah, no, I 100% understand, because let me tell you, the only way that I can keep myself from going overboard like that is intentionally disconnecting from Amelia.
Yeah.
Like, I would only make eye contact with her when she wasn't looking at me, and I would never go out of my way to make it look like I had some sort of preference or even familiarity to Amelia. It's always so funny. I've done this in games where you know someone in a game previous to the game and you
Yeah.
act like you're meeting them for the first time. Oh, hey.
Yeah.
So similar vibes to being on that side, because the reason why I was so mad at Allison at the very beginning of the game was I didn't want to expose the fact that Amelia even knew someone in production.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw that play huge amounts, and it's very game and tribe dependent, which is very sucky, but it
Mhm.
can be detrimental to someone's game, like it was to Sam's game in season 3, of just, hey, you know people on
Yep.
here, you were on production, that's good enough a reason to get you out of
Yep.
here. And
Yep.
again, very tribe and game specific, but I didn't want to that even be a factor, and so I was very protective about not giving away the fact that we had any sort of relationship, whether it even was just the fact that we knew each other, let
Yeah.
alone the fact that we were dating. Um, and but yeah, I think it was really cool. And still to this day, one of my favorite moments was finally being able to hug her for the first
Yeah.
time when we were
You
finally able to connect. Yeah.
But that was especially sweet. I have a note here about.
Something
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, something I want to mention, you reminded me of this, Taylor, when you brought up season 2, is that for some reason, and I don't know about anything about season 1, but for some reason, Surviving Maine always bring an architect of this character who is, I guess I'm just labeling the Tony architect because he was the first one to be this person, where they're this like out of body experience coming into this game, and they have this teddy bear like
Yeah.
exterior, but episode by episode they learn and adapt, and it's so cool to see them evolve. So we had Tony in season 2, we
Mhm.
have Seth in season 4, and you're wondering, oh, what about season 3? I'm convinced that Larry was that archetype in season 3, and we were
He was a
robbed
teddy
of
bear.
it.
We were robbed of
We are
teddy bear Larry.
missing that person, but he was there. But Seth is such a unique character that you almost never see in LRGs these days,
Mhm.
because LRGs these days are dominated by players who have either played other games before or the biggest super fans of Survivor, and they're ready to get out there. As someone who used to be in production for games, uh, 20 as early as 2016, games were dominated by people who haven't even heard of Survivor. They were just looking to do
Your
something
friends.
crazy, something
Yeah.
adventurous,
Yeah.
and that type of personality was so much more commonplace in the super fans. I mean, the LRG world has literally replicated how Survivor has gone. Survivor didn't used to be filled with super fans. Now that's
Mhm.
all that's in the game. And so
I
we've
don't
seen
like
it
it.
evolve with
Yeah,
LRGs in general,
this
where
season. Yeah, go.
yeah, just people like
I
Seth,
was going
it's
to
just
agree
it's
with
just a
you.
joy to see.
This season has that element. I lost my train of thought.
Surviving Maine.
Cut that out.
Surviving
Cut
Maine
that
always
out.
does. Surviving Maine always. That's why I will never back off of this hill that I'm dying on. That Surviving Maine is the best LRG, because I don't know how Liza gets these people. Like, there's
It's
always
like
several people who have never heard of Survivor, or like just barely adjacently, and they're so much fun to watch.
it's like throwing a few sharks. It's like putting a few like new school players in a time machine and sending them back to like season 1 or season
Yeah,
2. and putting them in there, and they're like just a couple of sharks with a couple of people like, what's going on here? Oh, we gotta
Yeah.
write it on this paper. We gotta put it in this urn. You don't see that in these series
Yeah.
anymore. So it's setting aside from all these people like these series. A lot of these series are great, but they're casting people who are savages who want it so bad. Whereas here, you have a mix of people who are really intense gamers and people who are like, what the fuck did I sign on for? You
Yeah.
know, it's great. It's great to watch. For that
And
reason, I
some
think that's like the theme of the season.
yeah, and some great BTS info is the fact that like even the people who look like they're really like well experienced are either playing their first ever game or playing like maybe there's like did Sandra play any games before this? Was this
She had
her
played
like
one.
first?
She played one, and
Yeah,
she was swap screwed in Outlast. Yeah, season
right.
one.
Yeah, so like very new player. Amelia, it was her first game,
Yeah,
even though it didn't come off like that. Most of the cast hadn't played a game before,
yeah,
and I would not say that you would have that impression by watching these people even talk, let
yeah.
alone
Like
play.
TJ, Topher, they had never played.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all these people who
It
look like
depends.
they were like born to play this game,
right.
essentially. Just you literally would have just at this point in where we are with allergies would have just expect, oh yeah, this isn't their first rodeo. When in reality, it is their first rodeo, and it's so cool to see them to be out there doing this, and it adds so much more nuanced things that we just you can't really see anywhere else. Um, yeah.
So, Will, I'm gonna throw out just a name
Hmm.
to you or two, and I just want your reaction to their
Yeah.
game. You like this, Taylor?
I like this.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. Lauren. Who's Lauren, you say?
Lauren is Lauren is really interesting because I don't think Lauren played anything before this, right?
She had
I
played
think she did.
Philly, Survivor
Yeah.
Philly. It was a 1 day game. It
Okay.
doesn't count.
Right.
Okay. One day. Okay. Okay. So
They
a little
count.
something. Lauren
I'm so-
is in the same bucket as Sandra, where despite only playing one game, they look like they play five. Like no joke. And that's really honestly unfortunate because I know this was a big deal for like Amelia, who was trying to take everything in consideration and trying to gauge threat levels and whatnot. Is just that perception of how well adjusted do you seem in this game.
Hmm.
And Lauren, regardless of her experience, comes off like someone who has played multiple games as well as Sandra. So it I feel like it kind of puts them, unfortunately, in a bad position because they are giving off a vibe that they are a bigger threat than they actually are. And I feel like this especially applies to Lauren, who I feel like isn't as strategic as someone like Sandra, but is a very like emotionally forward kind of player,
I wrote
which
I
is
wrote
good.
here
And
I wrote here Lauren. This is my little note. Lauren talking about production. Remember she was talking about how production kept her up there and it was
Yes.
annoying. So
Yes.
yes,
to me, that came off as a little rude towards production.
There's more where that came from too.
That
She
makes
has
the
more to
the
say. I
what's
think I
that?
edited it out, but I didn't
Good.
I didn't edit all of it out, but she's like, this is dumb. And she looks at the camera and she's like, remember that production. This is dumb. I was like,
so
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
as
that's what I
funny
mean about
as that
the
is, as funny as that can be,
yeah,
that's also, yeah, I'll never cast you again. I don't
exactly.
don't you don't like you're being offered an opportunity to play a game that a lot of people want to play. And even if you find something dumb, and maybe even if it is dumb, Don't say it to the fucking camera.
Yeah, no, you're not playing the game. You got to play the game with production too, Lauren. For next time,
Yeah.
and another thing, I think I got this wrong. That Lauren may have played a bunch of one day games because I know she's involved with like competitive events, Johnny Stockton's games. So she's probably
Yeah.
played a bunch actually.
I think she played one or two of those and then was on crew and ran the game for a few of them. And then I don't know.
Right.
There's so many I
But this
can't
is
keep
what I
track.
meant about this is what I meant about the emotional bit. It's just the fact that she's very bad at keeping her thoughts about people to herself. And I feel like what's so interesting about players like that is that there's two distinct ways you can go about this. You can stay away from this person as far as possible, not trust them whatsoever, or depending on what type of player you are or what you got going on for you, that's a stark opportunity to be like, I always know what this person is going to be thinking, and I can use those emotions against them because I know how they're going to react about certain moves. And I can, when I think about, so you got to think, and I know this sounds kind of like manipulating, but I mean, that kind of also is what Survivor is about because you have to convince people to do what you want. And part of that is understanding what each person wants. And so for someone like Lauren, they're going to be driven by emotional stuff. It's things that are strategic. It's not that it doesn't matter. It just, depending on the moment, what's going on might not matter as much as certain vendettas or thoughts about people that's going on. And so you got to think, when you're talking about rallying votes for one person, you can't just copy paste your same speech from person to person. If you want to get the numbers, you got to know that when you come to Lauren, you're going to talk about not just why this makes strategic sense, but why should this person emotionally want this person out of the game. And for some people, that can be easier to control depending on their skill sets of swaying votes than someone who's thinking super strategically and thinking about their position in the game.
I would 100% work with Lauren. She would be my ride or die. Just saying. George, I don't think you're going to get through everyone because William will have 20 minutes on every single player that you ask about.
No, I just, because my note was about Lauren and the way that she was talking about production in such a like a shitty way. And
I mean, me personally,
I love you, Lauren. It's okay.
I didn't have too many one-on-one points with Lauren or for many of the players, to be fair, because I wasn't doing confessionals. So
we can love Lauren. I just hope that we don't celebrate bashing production in these episodes.
Of course not. Yeah.
That would not sit well with me.
Absolutely. There's some players in season 3 where I cut out a bunch of stuff they said and I secretly had a vendetta against them and maybe try to make them look a little dumb. I don't remember.
There you go. You don't want me at these controls.
You're like, all right,
totally different season. I've run the gamut of season 5.
Episode 5.
Where are we?
Season 5, man. I can't wait.
Episode 5. I said season 5?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's getting late. It's getting late. That's why.
Okay.
Is that a spider?
Hope not.
Sorry.
Want me to kill it for you, George?
No, I don't kill spiders.
That's nice. You put them outside.
Yeah, I let them do that thing.
One last question for you, Taylor, is what I love about a good edit is understanding in the conversations of voting someone out, there's a lot of things that get talked about that ultimately amount to nothing, especially when you consider players that are literally saying nonsense to other people on purpose because, hey, this isn't actually the real plan, so I'm literally BSing you right now. And with a tribal like this, where there's actually so many legitimate candidates being floated around, what were some of the like conversations about ideas that never got any traction that were thrown out?
There was a little bit of maybe Adam should be the one to go. That didn't last long at all. There was just a couple of comments about it. TJ never wanted that to happen. So, not that he had a say in it, but what else? I talked earlier about the stuff that was cut out about how it was going to be Shaylee from the beginning.
Mhm.
I always have for I'm reaching over here. Every episode, when it comes to strategy talks, I like do an outline of every episode before I start cutting it
Mhm.
all together. And I'll have like, okay, I'm gonna focus on people are gonna vote this person out and then this person out. And then the really hard ones are when there's three. Like
Mm.
ep- the one I just finished, episode 9. Oh my god, it was so hard. It's 3 hours and three different people are maybe getting votes, and I had to cut it all down to like 15 minutes, and it was so fun though. But for this one, it was a little more straightforward, and I was like, I'm gonna have it be like everyone is brought up that was brought up,
Mm.
so except for Shaylee, which maybe isn't the best thing to do, because it's kind of like, what if you're watching, you have no idea, you're just like, what the fuck, why Shaylee, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, TJ did that thing at Tribal, so maybe. But the next episode opens with this information, so it's not like truly a spoiler, but it opens with the flashback where Madison is masterminding this
Yep.
lying about TJ. Yeah.
What about Topher?
I just love him. I want to
I
be
do
his
too.
friend.
He's a good
we're
guy.
we're gonna see more Topher confessionals. He's like the storyteller of the season. Him and Allison, I feel like.
There was
I
also
agree.
I'm trying to. I think it was Adam. Yeah, I think Adam has like great confessionals so far as well too.
And they
When
get
you
better.
understand him,
Yeah, when you understand, they get better. He like really comes alive in an
so
episode coming
mumbling.
up. Yeah, and it's like, oh, I love this Adam. He's like so excited about something, and it's I love the confessionals that he gives about that. But anyway,
Good confessionals are the way to my heart when it comes
yeah,
to liking a player.
right.
William played Andy's arena.
Oh, you did? I didn't know that.
I, oh man, it was one hell of a game.
William did wonderfully. What was your placement again?
Uh, fifth? Was it fifth?
Oh,
It was either fifth or sixth. Let me wait. Um, it was
And he
sixth.
tied for player of the game.
wow!
Yeah, hold on one.
Congratulations.
Oh wait, do I not literally? Oh damn. I'm in the process of moving soon, and I literally so the prize for being fan favorite was getting a personalized pop figure by Todd, Survivor Todd, and
Yes.
um so he literally made me this whole pop figure that was based off of my fit from the game, and it's so cool, and I literally just a couple
Awesome.
days ago packed it
Why
up,
is it
and I
not?
was about to bring it up and show everyone, but it
That's
was
mine from
so
All Stars,
I love it.
made by
Todd
Todd.
yeah.
Herzog, season 15, China. You can commission him to make a pop of anybody you want.
Something that I learned from that game, which is kind of interesting for anyone to think about when they go to play a game or whether they're playing another game, is I think a lot of people default to saying that they want to be in the middle. When you ask them where do you want to be in the game, where you want to play from, they say the middle. I want to be able to dabble in everything.
Mhm.
Um, I think that you can never, first off, expect that you're going to be in your ideal spot for where you want to play in the game. And also, you have to understand that no matter where you are positionally in the game, it comes with pros and cons.
Yep.
The middle is the biggest extreme of that. You do have the most influence in the game, but you also have the most to lose. Um, I know it didn't really come across in the edit for my season, but there was a brief moment where I was truly in the middle, which was the first round of the merge.
Yeah.
And just due to the fact that there was so much going on and so many conversations that be had with people that I didn't play with, people I was catching up with, I was scrambling because I knew that based off of the numbers, I was in two different majorities, but that was not going to be the case after this vote because one majority was going to have to rule out. So I knew that I had the influence to sway that either way, but only if I made actions on it. and I wasn't able to, and then immediately lost my power position going into that, which I also believe directly coincided to my downfall afterwards. In fact, some of the poor decisions that I made was me trying to claw back up to get some sort of power in the game. But being in the middle, I think, is the worst position to be in a game because it's so easy to mess up. It's so easy to mess up. And so the other two spots is in the top. And so you look at someone like Sandra, she's both got it easy, but as you can see, it's starting to get to her. And at some point, if you keep acting like that, people are going to start pointing to you as the next big move.
Yep.
And especially as you get close to the merge, people are going to want to look at those people and take them out. And you can be this person who's self-aware about it, or you could be on the top perceivably just by, say, something like challenge performance and not even know it, but you have to know that that's where you're being perceived and make moves to have yourself perceived in a different way, being not on the top, because you want to be on the top, but also not perceived being on the top. This really annoyed me about the most recent season of Survivor, where you had so many people being annoyed that they weren't being recognized for their moves. I'm like, yeah, you don't. You want to wait till the end of the game to show that, because you don't want the credit for any of this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
So going into this game of Andy's Arena, this was the first time that I was not only in the bottom, but super aware that I was in the bottom. And let me tell you, playing from the bottom is super scary, but super fun, because worst case scenario is way more closer to reality, which is just you going home. And when you're on the bottom, you have a lot more leverage for stuff that you can try, shenanigans you can pull, because anything's game. And bringing this back into our current talking point, this is TJ yelling in the voting booth because he knows that he's on the bottom. He's got nothing to lose. What if I try something crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were great. You played a great game in Andy's Arena for sure. And TJ's playing a great game as well. But I'll tell you what, though, Adam's onto him. Was it Adam? No, wait. Adam, smartly assessing that TJ is a huge threat. He was talking about nuts.
I love those talking points.
Yes.
This really stark opinions there. I love it.
I was like, is Adam in love with TJ? Oh.
I think ultimately, we're talking about positions of the game. That's ultimately you want to be. You want to be the bystander that is able to see everyone for the true players that they are, and being able to have enough influence to make an impact, but never be the figurehead, decision maker, but just have a say into it. Because you got to know that there's a lot of game to play always. And if you're actually playing to win, you got to know that you got to feel okay not being in control for a large part of the game.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to have their 15 minutes of fame in a game of Survivor, and you have to choose, if you can, when that is, in a way that's not going to ultimately hurt your game. Because if it's too soon, like, we're seeing like Sandra's having her moment, TJ's having a moment that's being seen by a couple of people, that stuff carries, and it's going to impact your ability to actually make it to the end to then win. So yeah.
As far as like who's in a good position from where we are right now in the season, I would say Adam is in a really decent position. I would say Amelia right now, because people are endeared toward her, or find her very endearing, and like the people in power want to work with her.
Yeah, you literally have to say that simply because the fact that she got unscathed by the entire thing, and like I keep saying, it is very tribe dependent, but that's all that matters for her game right now, is that the tribe that she is with, for whatever reason, respects the hell out of her. And so you can't help but stand and be like, well, somehow she turned this from a swap screw moment to just a heroic moment without even having to win the challenge. And is also very evidently in the mix with everything by what the interaction with Seth had, to know both sides of the votes and being able to choose what side of the vote she wanted to be on. So I mean that she's the only person that was in that position, so that's also really crucial. I think Seth is also in a good position, because a player like Seth is most in danger at the beginning of the game. And I think that this episode,
Perfect.
especially with the swap, you are past the beginning of the game. Seth is no longer on your radar. You are coasting, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this point for Seth, if he can just continue to adapt and learn this game, he can definitely find himself in the long haul because when are you going to target Seth? At this point, TJ's entering the mix. You're going to be talking about him. Sandra's probably going to be entering the mix soon. You're going to be talking about her. Yet all these people are going to start becoming your focal points. Your time for wanting to vote out Seth seriously is probably done, in my
Yeah, you're
opinion.
not so worried that Seth is going to be talking strategy, trying
Yeah.
to vote you off. You can rely on Seth. If he said that he's one of your votes, you can rely on that. And you're going to always have a campfire. And so like
Yeah,
there's so many perks to keeping Seth around, and you're absolutely right, Will, that if Seth was going to be voted out, you know, chances are he would have been voted out a lot earlier.
I want to
He's playing a
say
great game up to this point.
right. And I almost want to say that Madison's in a great spot from that tribe from no other reason other than she seems to be in setting up for potentially a middle slot
Mm-hmm.
where I feel like she's not so lost in the sauce with the majority, but it's definitely I think liked by everyone. But is very I feel like I really like I think what it is I just really like her mindset. I feel like she is in the right space where she needs to be. She's in a good spot, doesn't have any heat, but clearly shows the ability to do what she needs to do. Um and yeah.
To wrap before we wrap up and shut this train down, who is the player of the episode? Who gets the tick award for this episode?
Who gets the ticky?
Uh Regardless if you think it's biased or not, I have to say Amelia.
Okay. We got one
It's
vote for Amelia. Yes.
you can't help but say it's super impressive. You can't not say that.
I'm going to agree. I'm going to give it to Amelia as well. I think that Amelia has made it clear that she's stepping way, way, way outside of her box. And she had a little tiny bit of a setback and recovered incredibly from it. And on top of all of that, besides being endeared, everybody loves her. She's playing a really good strategic game as well. Her head is in it, and she's thinking about every single move she makes. And so, being the fact that she made it through this episode after all the odds stacked against her, Amelia gets the fishy. What the hell is it? The ticky.
Ticky. You know what? I've been pondering this, and I think I actually agree with. I think we are all
Oh wow.
unified on this
First
because
time.
because just based on what was going on in those conversations while TJ's on his journey, Shaylee was not doing a great job giving them reasons to keep her, and Amelia was. She even though she knows she has Callie. Callie told her to play that idol. She's like, everyone on my tribe voted for me.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm up for grabs.
Yeah.
I'm a vote for you. And people like Sandra and Adam are hearing that, like, oh, we
Not
want
only
her.
that, but
Yes.
other people tried to play that same card, didn't do it as effectively. And I'm not even just saying that from the results of what people said. I can just reading it, just feel that it's not as authentic. Oh, I'm a free agent too.
Right.
And it's like you immediately feel like, are you though? Like it doesn't quite stack up. I mean,
I think
TJ
that's-
basically immediately gets called out for this.
Right,
Like,
right. But I think that's like Amelia's personality is just so adorable, and everything she says is so cute, and you're just like, oh, you can be with us. We'll take care of you.
Yeah, there's no reason why she's not doing voiceover work. Let's face
Right,
it. She's
right.
got like
Cartoons.
the best voiceover cartoon voice. There would be one. You can make billions.
yeah. When it comes down to it, though, she overcame two huge odds that would get most people at least in contention for being voted out. Not alone being voted out, but being swap screwed, and then being a person who you could label losing the challenge for you.
Yeah.
The fact that she overcame both completely unscathed when I think you should expect someone's name like that to even be brought up. And then that didn't, like I said, I have seen this whole game because I was there. I know what happens. I didn't see the confessionals. I was not expecting these confessionals. I thought that there had to have been some blowback at some level, and there just wasn't. I was shocked.
And on that note, just as I suspected, we did go over an hour on this one because it's William. William always has stuff to say. If we didn't have things to do, we would continue for another 3 hours probably. But we need to wrap up. Thank you so much, William, for joining us. It was truly a pleasure.
As much as I love to talk, it makes it so much more fun to talk to you two. You two are amazing, and I could talk to you forever if you let me.
And you have before, and you shall again. All right.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.